Anyway, let's get started. Jingliu, everyone's favorite wholesome mentor. Absolutely nothing wrong with her. She did nothing wrong, regardless of what the Xianzhou wants to tell you. She is completely innocent of all crimes. Who
No
wants
war
to,
crimes here.
Who wants to run us through her kit real quick? What does she
Sure,
do?
let's get started. What does she do? Yeah, exactly. What does she do? Okay, I mean, we can get started with the basics, right? So, Jingliu's entire kit is focused around her syzygy mechanic. So, what is that? That is her stacks. She builds those stacks up, and then she goes Super Saiyan, essentially. So, her skill is pretty much her bread and butter, and I know how much we love that phrase, but that has to be the truth in her case because it's really what you'll be using for everything. So Jingliu gets 2 syzygy stacks. She enters her transmigration state, at which point she gets a massive crit rate buff, and her skill starts draining ally HP in order to increase its damage, along with a huge buff to her ult damage as well. Basically, what this does is essentially make her a very powerful AoE DPS. And her whole gameplay is about getting into the state fast and extending the state because she can do that through her ultimate. Every time you use it, you gain 1 more stack of syzygy. There's some fun teams going around where you can just keep casting ults, keep staying in the transmigration state, right? Now, there's a lot of misconceptions floating around from what I've seen about her other side mechanics, namely her HP drain. So we'll probably just start with that, really, because that's kind of central to her kit. It's what dictates a lot of her synergies, and where a lot of her strength comes in. So anytime Jingliu uses her enhanced skill, she drains a % of all of her teammates' max HP. This is converted into attack for her skill. And also just as a general thing, because she is draining HP, this has synergy with things like Blade. It has synergy just with relic sets where they're... Actually, no, it doesn't.
Well, you could say it has synergy with 4-piece guard.
Yes, it does have synergy with 4-piece guard. But the gist of it is she's converting their health, and a very small amount of their health, into a lot of damage. Besides that, her ultimate, big blast AoE, grants 1 stack of syzygy. If you're in the transmigration state, this deals extra damage as well. And her technique is pretty powerful as well. It provides a freeze right away. She starts with extra energy and 1 stack of syzygy, so you can get started pretty much right away on her first turn. Besides that, her overall kit, I mean, it's a lot simpler than it sounds on paper, realistically. So we can just kind of hop into that. There's a lot of little details that ultimately wind up doing the same thing, which is just her doing a lot of damage for essentially free, because her main thing is she does not use SP on her enhanced skills. She's similar to Blade. She's not quite as SP neutral as he is. In fact, she can be, depending on how you run her. For example, if you're running her with Bronya, she can use up a decent amount of SP. But she is the type that you're going to have a lot of extra floating SP. You can stick her with another DPS. You can stick her with Blade himself. You don't have to worry about it. And I like this little niche that the destruction characters are carving out now. It makes her very flexible. So I think we should hop into just her syzygy and HP drain mechanic, right, guys?
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah.
So, like Reens said, her synergy mechanic is essentially just her. It's the fundamentals of her kit, right? You have two of them. When you start, you get one from your technique, which creates a dimension around you. Anything that enters this dimension gets frozen. It's pretty big, and because it's a dimension, you can swap off of your character if you want to pair it with, say, another technique, like maybe Pela to start the fight with some extra defense shred. If you don't, maybe Silver Wolf for a little bit more break. It's pretty nice. And then the other way you are really going to be looking to get synergy stacks at the beginning of your rotation is through her skill. Because, like Reens mentioned, when you're in your spectral transmigration state, you do a lot of extra damage because of how much she buffs herself. So, realistically, you'll start off with a technique into skill to get your 2 stacks. And if you have an alt, you probably use that then. It is generally a good idea to hold on to your alt and not waste it for stacks. Though it can be situational.
Yeah.
I'd almost say you'd almost never want to use your ult outside of the transmigration state.
The damage is so bad outside.
Yeah,
it's not worth.
you're really looking at only if you really need, I'm talking about like you're gonna get wiped if you don't freeze them, like that sort of thing. Really need the toughness break on the spot, but otherwise you're sacrificing most of its damage.
Sure,
Yeah.
but there are some situations where you'd consider using it. If you're looking to just finish a fight, you know, like you're about to wrap it up, but you know, they just have a little bit of HP left and you got out of your spectral transmigration. You're not really going to need the ult, you can probably make do with a skill or two. If you're doing SU and you have the that one hunt blessing that gives you back energy on kill, you could also just use that. You know, there are situations where you can consider using your ult.
Default should be no, though.
Yeah. Generally, like most of the time, you will want to hold on to your ult until you're in spectral transmigration. Sushou, why don't you tell us about her HP drain?
Right. So, her HP drain, that is part of her talent, is only 4%. It takes 4% of max HP from... Or is it current HP, actually? That's a good question. No, it is, yeah. It is max HP. I was right the first time. It takes 4% of the other ally's max HP to convert it into an attack boost for Jingliu for that attack. So, Jingliu herself does not have her health drained. This is not something that you need to worry about. And 4% from everyone else is not hugely significant. It also only affects the attack that you're currently doing. So, but you know, it'll just happen again when you drain it. So if you are in Spectral Transmigration and you use her enhanced skill, she'll drain the health from her other allies to deal increased damage for that enhanced skill. If you use her ultimate, she will similarly do another health drain from her allies. It will affect the ultimate. It's what contributes to the ultimate dealing significantly higher damage, that and one of her bonus traces, which we'll get to later. And it's capped at an increase of 180% of her base attack. Because the multiplier on the actual health conversion is quite high, it takes the total health drain and multiplies it by 5.4. And that is then the attack increase that Jingliu gets, with the cap being decided by your talent level, which at max is 180% of her base attack. It's a lot. It's a huge amount of attack to be getting basically for free, and the cost is really quite negligible. It's very strong. It's why she can get such high damage numbers out.
I mean, people like numbers. For like her sig, it's over 2,000 attack that she's doing, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking
Even if
of
you have
her
a-
sig, oh,
Sorry, go on.
no, that's fine. That's fine. You can finish that up.
Yeah, even if you have a very low, a low star light cone, even if you're using like a 4-star or even a 3-star, but perhaps, it's still very easily to max out on the attack bonus that you get, and still deal very impressive damage.
Okay. Speaking of light cones, let's talk about that for a quick second. Let's talk about her signature. I shall be my own sword. Increases the wearer's crit damage by 20%. When an ally, excluding the wearer, gets attacked or loses HP, the wearer gains 1 stack of Eclipse, up to a maximum of 3 stacks. Each stack of Eclipse increases the damage of the wearer's next attack by 14%. When 3 stacks are reached, additionally enables that attack to ignore 12% of the enemy's defense. This effect will be removed after the wearer uses an attack. So, right off the bat, we can see that it just gives her everything she wants because of her her talent, giving her a bunch of attack for free, and generally her supports also providing attack. Jingliu can end up with a lot, and her kit doesn't inherently have a bunch of damage percent. She's kinda low on that. So her signature light cone gives her pretty much all that she needs. There is something that we should talk about with her with the defense shred on it, and the fact that you can potentially overcap if you're running both signature and Pela and Silverwolf. Who wants to talk about that real quick?
Oh, well, it's pretty simple. Enemies, you can reduce all of an enemy's defense or 100% of their base value, but you can't push it into the negatives. So you are capped on how much defense shred you can possibly have in this situation. So you are probably better off using a different character than one or the other if you have her light cone.
Yeah, so basically, because 100% defense shred is the most you'll ever apply to an enemy. Like if you go past 100%, 105, 110, that's not gonna make any difference. The maximum you're going for is still 100%. So stacking multiple sources of defense shred, like Silverwolf's ultimate, Pela's ultimate, Resolution, Jingliu's signature, all of those can end up going past 100%, which ends up being wasted. So in situations like that, you can probably swap out one of your defense shredders for a different character, like maybe say Tingyun, or Asta, or Bronya, etc. But an important note to keep in mind is that the overcapping will generally be on one target because Silverwolf's ultimate is single target. So it is something that you should keep in mind, but probably not worry too much about.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty specific thing. It's only if you're running Silverwolf and Pela and have her sig or the quantum set, actually. But generally speaking, she does really well with the other Harmony units. So pick one, and then other slot can go to Tingyun, to Asta. Both are great choices. Even Bronya.
Yeah, it's kind of just... It is both not necessary to bring both Silverwolf and Pela, and it is probably...
It's just one of those
less
few cases
optimal.
where it's overkill because you're already getting 93%-ish defense from Silverwolf and Pela, and you probably are running quantum set at that point on her. So you're kind of throwing away that benefit too, because that's another 20%.
Yeah, you'd get bigger returns from just bringing somebody else at that point.
But again, that's very specific. If you have all of these different sources, not many people will, I imagine. But again, if you have all of them, you should consider how much you're actually benefiting. And again, that was in relation to her her signature Lycon's defense shred. Let's talk about her other options. What about her? What about the other 5 stars? Any of them good?
Yeah. You want to go ahead, or I got it. I mean, the first option right after would be on the fall of an Aeon. So if you have that, and you probably should at this point because every destruction character wants it.
Except
Yep, it's her second best choice. It's a solid option. It's about 15% behind an S1 of her sig, all things considered. But it is there. The downside to Aeon is the fact that, again, every destruction character wants it, and you can only get one. So you might be a little thin here on what to give her if you're not going for her sig and you already have another destruction that's using Aeon. So that's where you'll be looking at the other choices, right? We can talk about other sigs just as a note that Don Hang's sig is pretty decent. It's a little worse than Aeon, but it's there. And then after that, you have Nowhere to Run and Secret Vow, right? Those are your 4-star options.
Yeah. Well, we also have Blades that we can talk about.
Yep.
Just a quick note about Imbibitor's signature. Because it applies on basic, you're not going to be getting the second half of the passive, because you're never basic attacking with Jingliu. Her basic attacks do peanuts in terms of damage, and they don't really they don't provide you any synergy stacks. And you straight up cannot use basic attacks in Spectral Transmigration anyway. So you are never going to get the second half of this passive. But it's still good as a stat stick. It has high base attack, it gives you some crit rate. It is an option if you have it. Blades is a little bit more usable, though it is also conditional. Because the second half of it is consuming your own HP, which she does not do. She only consumes ally HP. She can't consistently trigger the damage increase. And if she's constantly getting hit, then she's at risk of dying, which is something that you need to be constantly aware of. Like Reens mentioned, 4 stars, you really have just Nowhere to Run, which is the Battle Pass, the Nameless Honor. Sushou, why don't you talk about this one? I know you love it.
It's okay. You know, it's okay, and I don't mean that in like the slightly disappointed tone. Like, no, it's actually pretty good. You know, having an unconditional attack increase that, you know, especially one that gets as high as it does when you have superimpositions on it, is very, very good. 48% at max. When you defeat an enemy, you also restore health, which isn't super relevant for Jingliu, as it might be for somebody like Blade, who is consuming his own health. It's just like got very good stats overall, and it is something that you can guarantee getting because it is a battle pass Lycon. That is, however, also its downside, is that it is a battle pass Lycon. You will need to accumulate a lot of copies of this for it to start reaching, you know, the kinds of competitive heights of the aforementioned ones, especially if you already don't have somebody who needs to use On the Fall of an Aeon. Nowhere to Run kind of doesn't have a use case for you. It's only when you have a lot of characters that need it that it starts to become good, and it is very good. But it's also 5 entire Nameless Glories worth. So it's something that the individual player has to kind of evaluate whether or not it's worth going for it specifically for Jingliu. But it is good. It is very competitive when it is at S5. It is only slightly worse than On the Fall of an Aeon, so it is it's highly competitive if you do own one.
And now we go into her other 4-star option, a secret vow. Everyone loves this light cone. It's versatile, it's very generalist. Everyone likes damage percent. Sushou, you
Yeah,
have
you're
a
not
lot of
gonna.
votes.
Well, I want to make an announcement. I got my first copy of a secret vow the other day from the standard banner.
Congrats.
It only took until current date to get a single secret vow. And I can confirm, having already leveled it, that it's just good. It's very consistent. A lot of people might look at this and think that it's only worth it if you can actually activate the secondary part of the light cone. It's kind of just a nice bonus when it does activate for many destruction characters, because especially when you have this at Superimposition 5, which is usually the kind of benchmark that gets used, it's 40% unconditional damage increase, with the potential for an additional 40% if you're attacking an enemy who has higher health than you. So this can actually rack up very, very quickly, and it has very good base stats as well. It's kind of the generalist destruction light cone. It's kind of like Eon Light, essentially. If Fall of an Aeon is occupied by somebody else, and you have another destruction character that you want to use, and you have a secret vow, well, congratulations. That's probably what you're going to be using.
Do we want to talk about the other 4 stars? Maybe Wolf Walk Time, since that's the other free-to-play accessible light cone next to
It's a bit despair. Wolf Walk Time is kind of a product of what the game was when it came out, and the types of destruction characters that we had available to us, which were predominantly Physical Trailblazer and Hook, and I suppose Arlan as well, but Secret Vow is like Arlan's thing. A Wolf Walk Time, yeah, at Superimposition 5, it's like a decent option to just throw on as like, you know, a stat stick. 20% attack is fine. It's a bit underwhelming that you get 20% at S5. It kind of feels like that could honestly be the base. But its base stats are pretty okay. It has the same base attack as a Secret Vow does, so it's not too far behind in that department. But the difference in its effect is significant, because the 20% attack, usually characters are already overflowing on attack percent. Jingliu is one such example. She already gets a huge influx of attack percent thanks to her talent when she siphons health from her allies. So getting an additional attack percent on top of that is a bit... you start to get a lot into diminishing returns territory, and it's highly unlikely that you will ever get the secondary effect of this light cone on Jingliu specifically. Having an enemy afflicted by burn or bleed means that you need characters who can do those things. Considering Jingliu is ice, she herself is never going to be doing this. If you're using Jingliu with Asta, and you're using her with Asta frequently, it is possible to actually get the secondary damage percent portion from Asta's burn. It's not very consistent. It doesn't really feel that good, and if Asta misses, you know, if Asta isn't able to apply the burn, if the enemy resists it, because let's be real, it's highly unlikely that you're building Asta for effect hit rate, it doesn't feel particularly great. So if you have an S5 Wolf Walk Time lying around and you have nothing else, then feel free to use it, because it is a 4-star option. It has 4-star stats. it's a good kind of stopgap until you can maybe get lucky and pull a secret vow.
Mm-hmm.
Or Under the Blue Sky, you know, that's also a good gacha 4-star option.
Yeah, honestly, Under the Blue Sky is not too bad with her, considering her blast DPS. She's somewhat likely to keep not always uptime on it, but a decent amount of uptime on it. She easily handles ads and the like. So her biggest issue I see with Under the Blue Sky and why we don't mention it is the fact that she's extremely likely to be crit capped already, and an extra 24% is just too much.
Yeah, even at S1, honestly, like 12% at S1, if your Jingliu is like even decently built, you're probably like very close to being crit capped anyway. So it's kind of, again, it's a similar sort of thing. If you have one and it's leveled, you can use it. It'll be just fine. It'll be great, in fact, because I think an honorable mention in terms of light cones, something that probably might surprise some people, is, drumroll, a collapsing sky. Collapsing sky has no business being as good as it is, considering that it is a 3-star. You look at its stats, and you think, there's no way this is good, surely. It's exclusively because of its effect. Like, its effect is literally just the guaranteed portion of a secret vow, which makes it understandably worse than a secret vow in pretty much every way if you have that, especially at S5. But if you don't, and you really don't have any other options, having done some testing of my own, Collapsing Sky is actually pretty good. The 40% increased damage on your skill, obviously the basic part doesn't matter on Jingliu, she's never going to be using basic attack anyway. But because Jingliu doesn't have damage percent in her kit by default, it's why Secret Vow is so good for her, and it's similarly why Collapsing Sky is surprisingly good on her. 40% on that skill is a lot, and it shows. You would be surprised the kind of damage numbers that you can get on a Jingliu using Collapsing Sky. I would say it's probably the same thing as Under the Blue Sky and, you know, Wolf Walk Time, where it's a stopgap until you can get something better, preferably Secret Vow. But, you know, I personally would maybe even prefer using Collapsing Sky over the likes of Wolf Walk Time, because it's unconditional. I don't have to worry about what my team comp is going to look like when using this. So, if you're really strapped for light cones, don't be afraid to give this a try, because you might be pleasantly surprised.
It's the destruction light cone, like mess, isn't it? Every destruction light cone has such specific secondary conditions. I swear they're gonna release a light cone. They're like, grants you 100% attack damage, but only on full moons. Like, that's it. Look outside.
Yeah, it's like we talked about yesterday, though. There's not really a generally good destruction like that you can really point to, just because this this fucking path is literally just weirdos go here.
Yeah, every single one is so ultra specific. The only light cone that is widely usable between like every destruction character that isn't Blade is on the Fall of an Eon, and you're only allowed one of them. Oh, they know how to troll us, don't they?
Oh yeah.
Ay. And that's if you took it.
The other thing that you need to consider is some of us, you know, are a little bit too destruction pilled. Just a little bit.
Is it my fault that every character they've released so far has been destruction in the last couple of patches?
Maybe.
they know. They just know. Like destruction is just hella based. It's just a good path. It's genuinely held back by light cone choices. Like that is what is keeping destruction in check. Really.
Yep. Destruction units are balanced around their light cones. That's realistically the only reason this fucker is destruction. In no way is this dude supposed to be destruction. Like, he's just here because light cones go burr. I imagine you give this guy Peaceful Day.
Hmm.
I wish, right?
One fear.
Okay. Let's go over Jingliu's gearing options. We did touch upon it a little bit earlier, so let's start up with Genius of Brilliant Stars, everyone's favorite. The go-to of the go-tos. I am sick and tired of farming this set. Someone please get me out.
Well, I have some bad news and some more bad news for you. It's good, and it's also good on pretty much everyone, so keep farming it.
Yep.
Send help. I haven't seen my other children in so long. Please send help.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a surprise here. This is, I mean, we could pretty much say it. It's her best in slot because the ice set sucks. The ice set is pretty mid. It's 90% of the time this will be better. The 1% it's not better is if you literally have no defense shred and no quantum weak enemies.
Or if you're overcapping,
So,
like we talked about earlier.
yes, or in the off chance you already have 100% defense shred. Don't do that. Just don't do that.
Yeah. Though that being said, Hunter of Glacial Forest and both the 4-piece and 2-piece with Musketeer and probably Messenger for the speed bonus are not too far behind if we're considering Genius without the Quantum Weak. If we're considering just the 10% that it gives by default, then they're not too far behind.
Pretty much everything is in a nice little pack at that point. In that they're honestly within like 1 or 2 percentage points of each other. You're going to come down to substats, and it's not even worth comparing them beyond that. Whether it's 2-piece, the ice set or the quantum set.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, you have a bunch of options, depending on what you want to do. Genius is always good for almost every character in the game. You know, like, if you have damage dealers and you want to get them sets all in one go farm Genius. If you're sick and tired of it, you can look into getting other options. For Planars, obviously, Rutilant Arena is her best in slot. This thing, much like Imbibitor, it was just made for her. Basic attack and skill damage. You know, like skill damage, like we keep saying, is the vast majority of her damage portfolio. Getting an extra 8% crit rate is always good. The crit rate threshold that she needs to reach is actually not that much of a concern because her technique does give 50% crit rate in Spectral Transmigration, which is generally where you'll be doing your damage anyway. So you should really always have this covered. That being said, Inert Salsado isn't too shabby of an option if you don't have Rutilant Arena. While her skill is the vast majority of her damage, almost 2/3 of her portfolio, her ultimate is still a fairly big chunk. It's the remaining 30%. So if you do have good substats on this, you can consider using it while you farm for a better Rutilant set. Space Sealing option for earlier on, as always. Well, once again, we go into the saturated attack percent problem that she has, so don't specifically farm this for Yeah. It's
It
Yeah,
actually doesn't wind up being much worse than inert. They're pretty much neck and neck. It'll come down to what supports you wind up using, whether one comes out ahead or not.
Oh, it's fair.
yeah. Rutland is like the definitive first place, and then
Yeah.
there's a fairly noticeable drop off, and then it's inner and space ceiling, and it's like, substats, supports, etc. at that point. So, but endeavor to get a good Rutland set for her, because her skill is where the damage is for the most part.
I think that's all of it for her gearing options. Unless I'm missing something. I don't think I'm missing something. So let's go and talk about her teams. Like we mentioned before, Pela and Silverwolf. Pela in particular is really, really nice for her. AoE defense shred on ultimate, fantastic because blast DPS. Another thing to consider is that Pela is very SP positive, and when paired with Jingliu, you can use your skill more frequently, which means you get more uptime on her ultimate, more dispels if needed, so on and so forth. That ties into her E4, which gives you Ice Res Shred when using a skill for 2 turns, which is just fantastic. It's even more damage for Jingliu. Mono, why don't you talk about Silverwolf?
Let me see. Silverwolf. Okay, so as we've mentioned already, like, why are we telling you about stacking defense down to the point that you overcap? Stacking defense down is really good, especially if you have her light cone, where stack even more of it. And Silverwolf implanting ice at the same time is also incredible. She's just generally good at forcing you through content where they don't necessarily have ice weakness. They're just normal Silverwolf things. The unfortunate bit about her, as we mentioned, is that she does not really do that defense down in an AoE fashion like Pela, which is another consideration. If you don't need the implant, then perhaps Pela would be the better choice. But it is very hard to go wrong with Silverwolf here.
Yep,
Yeah, I think the team also has another benefit. Like, it's not touched upon a lot, but if you're dealing the rare case where the enemy doesn't have either ice or quantum, if you're gonna run her, honestly, both implants are very good. You get quantum, your relic set gets stronger. You get more defense ignore. If you get ice, you just get the res down. Like, you win right there. So you really don't have to deal with Silverwolf's RNG, which can sometimes be kind of annoying when she just refuses to give you the right implant.
Just be careful about your other teammates in that case, so you don't implant some third worthless thing.
Which is, I think, where we should start talking about our harmony options. Because, like, she can make use of all 4 of them. Right, let's talk about Bronya, the gold standard for harmony. Sushou, why don't you run us through this one?
So it's the general thing. It always happens. Anytime we talk about a damage dealer, it's impossible to not mention Bronya, because everything that Bronya does is just good. Having the ability to pick a target, pick an ally, and be like, it is your turn now, and have a damage boost while you're at it, is very, very strong. Especially because Jingliu already has turn advance in her own kit. from her talent. When she enters Spectral Transmigration, she immediately gets turn advanced, so it is now her turn again. It's not an extra turn, important to note, so buff things will tick down during this. And Bronya giving her even more turns on top of that means that she actually, just apart from just the raw damage increase that Jingliu will be getting from Bronya's skill, from Bronya's ultimate, because of the crit damage that you get from that and the attack percent you get from that as well, you're also going to be doing more weakness, more toughness damage with Jingliu from this. There can be a problem that can arise because of the turn advanced shenanigans that Jingliu has in her kit. If you use Bronya's skill on Jingliu before she is in Spectral Transmigration, and she enters Spectral Transmigration on that turn, she no longer has Bronya's buff active for when she actually uses her enhanced skill, because it counts as a completely different turn. So it's kind of unfortunate in that regard, but it does also accelerate the rate at which Jingliu can get back into Spectral Transmigration. So it helps reduce her downtime significantly by being paired with Bronya. And, she's just, the damage percent that you get from Bronya's skill on its own is already very, very impressive. We mentioned it when we were talking about light cones. Jingliu is oversaturated with attack percent already. Any amount of damage percent is very welcome. Getting Bronya's amount of damage percent, huge. That next hit you do, it's going to be massive, especially if you double dip and you use her ultimate, which counts as an extra action. Yeah, you can get some very, very, very silly numbers with Bronya.
Just as a note, the bigger downside to other than having the buff fall off on non-transmigration state is if you play her with Bronya, Jingliu is going to be allergic to shields at this point. So you might want to consider using either an abundance unit or perhaps something that's not dependent on her turns, like Fushuan. That way she won't be unprotected after she pops into a transmigration state.
Yeah, she will very quickly lose out on a lot of other useful things that other characters can provide. So, especially if you're running double harmony with Jingliu, you'll notice that one of these is going to get shafted a little bit, and it's not going to be Bronya. It's going to be whoever the other one is.
Yeah.
But the other options are also very, very good. I think something that also gets asked often is regarding Tingyun and, the energy that Tingyun can provide from her ultimate. And it's a pretty interesting consideration, since you can essentially achieve kind of a similar effect to what Bronya will provide Jingliu, where you reduce the downtime between spectral transmigration states with Bronya. But with Tingyun, you can extend the spectral transmigration state that you already have active. So let's say you enter spectral transmigration and then you use your ultimate. That gives you back another synergy stack. You're now at 3. So you have 3 enhanced skills to use. And each one of them restores 30 energy. So if you have Tingyun also give you some energy back, then it's entirely possible for you to get another ultimate back before spectral transmigration ends. So you can use your ultimate as soon as you get it back, thanks to Tingyun, a second ultimate under spectral transmigration, giving you another synergy stack, giving you a 4th enhanced skill, which is very, very good and very, very powerful. And especially because if you use Tingyun's ultimate when Jingliu is already in spectral transmigration, you don't have the turn advance anymore. It's only when you enter it for the first time. So you do get to use the full duration of Tingyun's ultimate as long as it's applied under spectral transmigration. So it can get finicky. It's a very similar sort of juggling act that you have to do with Jingliu's own ultimate, where it's like, oh, I want to use this in spectral transmigration. The same goes for Tingyun. I want to use this when Jingliu is already under spectral transmigration so that she doesn't just lose a turn of the buff thanks to the turn advance. But it's also very, very strong. So it's if you have E6 Tingyun, then you can guarantee the second ultimate under spectral transmigration because it restores 60 energy instead of 50. And Jingliu's ultimate cost is 140. So if you're from 0 and you have 3 enhanced skills, which are 30, you have 90, plus Tingyun, 50, will give you... Wait, no, I can't do maths. It's always guaranteed, but it can be even better. It can help you get your ultimate back sooner, which means that you then don't run into the issue of having Jingliu's ultimate come back when she's outside of spectral transmigration. Which will help you avoid the risk of running out of, of wasting the energy that you gain from using her unenhanced skill, which is also significant. So Tingyun really, really helps boost Jingliu up in a hypercarry setup. Very recommended, I think.
Who's next on the list?
The other thing that we need to remember is that because Jingliu is so, SP unintrusive, you can spam skill with a lot of her teammates more frequently than you would normally be able to with other damage dealers, which means you just get more energy in general, which, depending on the teammate, can really change the dynamic of the characters.
Yeah, going full negative Bronya with Jingliu Blade is pretty easy once you get over the first turn hump of spending 1 billion SP. But after that, it's smooth sailing with some SP positive defensive unit. So that's very good.
You could even use the extra SP that you have from not needing to use it on Jingliu for Tingyun, for example, where you can just be like, the buff hasn't run out just yet, where you can be like, I want to skill again because it gives Tingyun more energy. And this way you can improve the uptime on Tingyun's ultimate even further, which will improve the uptime on Jingliu's ultimate. It feeds it into itself very, very nicely.
It's just that flexibility. It's kind of like the same thing we see with Blade, where it gives you this huge flexibility of you have this free-floating SP. And whatever the situation, you need more healing, you need more energy, you can just use it on that.
Yeah. I
think the only harmony, we might as well talk about the last one in the room, which is Yukong, right? And there's some pros and cons here, but this is kind of where her whole shtick about forward advancing herself kind of comes into play. She works, but you have to be extra careful with setting up a team with Yukong because of the way Jingliu works. You're one, very likely to desync, and number two would be that she needs to be right after Yukong, because entering the transmigration state counts as a turn. So she's going to use up both stacks of Roaring Bowstring right away. So it does kind of cut into the team DPS. The other being that just she is very attack saturated. So that 80% attack, it's not as good as it would be on someone else. She does enjoy the crit damage, but again, she's probably probably going to be overcapped. So the 30-ish% crit rate that she gets from Yukong, you're probably not going to need all 30, like all 28%.
Yeah, it's a lot of effort for someone like Yukong is already one of the hardest harmony characters
Yeah.
to actually use, not even just optimally, but like at a decent level. And her buffs are mostly wasted on Jingliu because she already kind of does what she needs. So that's not to say that you can't reach some ridiculous numbers. Thanks to, I mean, the attack percent, you're oversaturated by a lot, but it's better than nothing, and the crit damage increase can also be fairly significant. So if you're willing to suffer through it and you don't have Bronya, this is another way that you can get some very, very impressive numbers. But really, probably just use Asta. Like, just use Asta and be faster and make up for it that way. Because it's really not a lot. It's a lot of effort, and it's probably not worth it for most people to have to think that hard about maximizing a character who's already difficult to use under normal circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically TLDR for the Harmony units in particular, just keep in mind that Jingliu action advances, and action advance means you use up a turn. So just keep that in mind when you're accounting for buff uptime. Now, the other thing, and there was a similar question earlier, is running Jingliu with Blade or other DPSs. Blade being the primary example, because they have such lovely synergy. Lore accurate team, by the way. Like we mentioned earlier, Jingliu drains ally HP. This means that Blade will accumulate stacks of his passive more frequently for his follow-up. Sorry, my brain died. So yeah, Blade will be accumulating stacks for his follow-up faster, which means he'll be pumping out damage a lot more frequently. And because they're both so SP unintrusive, you can actually run them both together comfortably. In situations like that, you're realistically going to want like a buffer or a damage amplifier that applies to both of them. And the best example of that is Pela, because of her AoE defense shred. Something to keep in mind though, when you are running Blade and Jingliu together, you are going to want slightly different gear loadouts for Blade. Generally, you'll want to consider running 4-piece guard on him to get the energy and the healing, because you know he's going to be flirting with death a lot, and even if it is Blade, he's still going to be susceptible to death. The other thing that you'll want to consider is for his planars, if you're pairing them together, because he is using his follow-up more often, and potentially his ultimate as well. Inert Salsado will edge out over Rutilant Arena.
Yeah, putting Blade with Jingliu can more optimally you would want to go for a setup where you have Inert Salsado, where you have potentially guard. If you're lazy and you already have Blade built, and it's a build where Blade is also playable by himself, then that will also kind of just work, and it kind of works surprisingly well. The main thing that you will have to watch out for is is Blade actually in a position where he's getting too low and is in actual danger of dying? Or the other thing that has also happened, if a character is at 1 HP, their health doesn't get drained. which means that Jingliu is both missing out on some attack percent, and Blade also doesn't get a stack on his talent. If he's at 1 HP and he does stuff that would drain his health, he doesn't get a stack. So you need to make sure that he has at least more than one, more than a single hit point, in order to.
It's kind of your
get
standard,
it.
Blade. Don't leave him at 1. Don't let him suffer like that.
Yeah.
I think guard is a little extra than what he needs. Realistically, pairing them together increases his survival, if anything, because he's getting follow-ups more frequently now.
Mm.
And by and large, it's more than going to make up for the HP drain that she provides.
Yeah, I was about to say, when I've been using Blade, and it's very hard for him to even like go under 50% because he gets stacks for cheap whenever she activates, rather than taking a big hit.
Yeah, you're gonna get his 25% heal more often. Like just putting them together. So just honestly, I would leave him on 4-piece disciple. I don't see the need to swap him over. You're losing a lot of crit right there. He's gaining more energy than he would usually. He's gaining more healing than he would usually. The only downside is if you're using like a single target support, right? Like we said before, like Bronya, because who are you going to skill, right? Are you going to skill or Blade? And it's kind of why my preference really is to bring someone like Asta, like Pela, where it just benefits them both.
Yeah, you can run into a situation where, actually, it's not you can. You will likely be running into a situation where you Bronya skill one of them, only to discover I should have skilled the other one, and it's just gonna feel bad. You're just gonna make yourself feel bad for a decision that you couldn't have possibly known at the time. And it's only stuff that, like, oh, in retrospect, I should have done it this way. Just get someone that can buff the two of them, or someone that can debuff enemies, so that the two of them don't need to worry either. You'll save yourself a lot of headaches. And especially if you play on auto mode, man, Bronya does some weird things when the two of them are in a party.
Oh, I don't trust Bronya on auto. Period.
No.
She does weird things. Period.
Do not.
Has your Bronya ever just skilled herself? I had that happen the other day, and I was so
Really?
confused because her turn just ends. It doesn't do anything. Her turn just ends, and you're sitting there just like, okay, yeah, you're literally just on strike right now, aren't you?
Yeah, auto Bronya with more than one
She's
damage
definitely
dealer.
on strike with the pouchy when she does that. It's hilarious. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Speaking of auto, Jingliu's
Yeah.
auto AI is just horrible.
Oh, it's bad too. Yeah.
It's horrendous. I have not seen a character use this many basic attacks.
I would have thought at first, it's like, oh, this might be finally a good auto character, because in her state, she literally can't do anything else, right? But she can't manage her state. The AI does not understand it exists. It'll ult out of the state. It will basic attack like silly. It's a mess, but what can you do? Maybe they'll update it later.
It is not good, TM.
Yeah.
Oh,
We need to do an auto AI tier list one day.
That'll be fun. Oh my god.
There are other characters that you could potentially use Jingliu with in a sort of double carry setup. It's something similar to what, obviously, Jingliu and Blade together is stunningly good. If you have both characters and you haven't tried it, try it. You will be amazed at how you can just turn your brain off, and the game will play itself pretty much. But like Blade, because she uses far less SP compared to other damage dealing characters, especially, you have a lot more freedom to pair her with other damage dealers. Stuff where you can say, oh, I don't need Jingliu to be dealing more damage, but I do need more coverage or something to that effect, you know? Maybe there's fire weak enemies as well. Maybe there's ads that get summoned that are constantly fire weak. Maybe you're in a situation where you're against the ape, which has both a fire weakness and an ice weakness. Maybe there are other ads present as well who are fire weak. Slap Himiko in there. Why not? You have the SP for it. It's probably going to be good because she's going to be piggybacking off of what Jingliu does anyway. In the same vein, Herta, surprisingly, if you have Herta and she is built, I've put her with my Jingliu, and it's really funny. It's really funny because neither of them consume SP, yet somehow everything is dying on the screen. So I can actually go for very SP negative support options. I can basically put Yukong in there and only ever skill, and just turn my brain off. Only skill on Yukong. It's amazing. It's ridiculous, actually. So opening up the door more to having these sorts of double carry setups just adds to the flexibility that Jingliu provides. And yeah, you shouldn't. I don't think that you should be afraid to try putting in a different character in place of maybe like one of your harmony supports, or if you're running two, for example, and just have the extra coverage, have the extra damage from that character be making up the difference.
Yeah, I don't know if we mentioned that before, but she can do the same thing that Blade does with Bronya because of just how SP positive the team will be, and just Bronya be skilling like every time, and it just works.
Quick, someone play the Kuro Kuro.
I think the only person you really don't want on there is Arlan, because you might kill him.
Well, that
Yeah, you
and-
might kill him.
That, and also if you're at 1 HP, you're not getting the attack buff. And he's always going to be at 1 HP.
And see, it depends on your teammates, because the truth of the matter is you don't honestly need that much team HP to get the attack buff. It's a lot lower than you'd think, right? If you're doing your standard 3-person team, if you're doing something like her signature, which is the highest attack percent, but let's say you're doing Aeon, you really only need your teammates to have a combined total of 10,000 HP. So per teammate, like 3,300, and that's to cap out. If you're running you're probably running more than that on your supports. Like you're probably running HP percent, like bodies, HP percent orbs, and you're easily hitting 4K. Same thing if you have an HP based healer or Pushwan, she can basically fuel it by herself. Like forget the rest of the team.
Yeah, I mean, my point is like, for example, for my team, right? Like, the characters that I run, I have Lynx, which, yeah, she's already half of the requirement. She's at, like, 5.5k. And then Pela and Silverwolf are both on the lower end, right? We can average them at around
Your Silverwolf's
4K.
pretty cracked there. It's like 4.6, actually.
Yeah, my Silverwolf is a little bit unreasonable.
Yeah, I mean, if you ran,
4.6.
there you go. If you ran like Link Silverwolf, you hit the cap. Your third character is essentially free. You don't have to worry about their HP at all.
If I'm running Pela instead, I'm still not at the. I'm still 1,000 short.
I mean, realistically, though, you're not leaving Arlan at 1 HP because he's gonna die to something. Just something will kill him.
Unless you're trying to like win in 2 turns with the Eidolon that revives him, but like,
I mean, just in general, don't worry about hitting the cap, because you'll hit the cap. You will hit the cap. It's very hard not to.
Yeah, like Reens mentioned, you need around 10k realistically, which is very easy to reach with 3 teammates, and depending on your support option, your sustain option, they alone can fund most of that. Fushwan can easily provide all of it herself. Blade can do the same thing. Um, and even then, between 3 characters, it's not very difficult. Can she be played with Gepard, or does the shield still counter her passive? No, the shield doesn't counter her passive. The issue with running her with shielders is that she turn advances, which chews through their duration faster. Because shields last for a certain amount of turns. Like March, for example, her shield lasts for 3 turns. If you take this one, 4 turns. Gepard, where's Gepard? Gepard, if you shield with him, it lasts for 3 turns. She's going to advance herself once when she enters Spectral Transmigration. If you have Bronya, that's even more advance forward. Not to mention...
She doesn't naturally just very fast. She has the speed traces. You want speed boots on her.
Yeah.
She also gets the action advance, so...
So she's going to burn through the duration really quickly, which is why she likes healers or defensive options that aren't tied to her turns, like Fushuan. Luocha has the lowest HP on my Jingliu team. Oh, that sounds like Luocha issue. Though realistically, it's not a problem, it's Luocha. Just having Luocha is already unbalanced.
It's also important to note, just for like clarification, her health siphon, HP siphon that she has on her talent, goes through everything. Like it doesn't care if the allies are shielded. It doesn't matter if you have damage reduction active or damage mitigation or anything like that. It's going to take the 4%. So you shouldn't be worried that your shields or, your Fushuan damage reduction or anything like that is going to interfere with the health drain. It's going to be consistent. It's going to do what it's going to do. You don't need to worry about that.
Oh, also damage reduction does not apply to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is true damage. Are the Fushuan micro heals enough to balance the HP siphon?
Oh, more than enough.
Yeah.
More than enough.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You're talking about like in the realm of like 400 HP drained every time she
not even just every time, like over the course of the entire spectral transmigration state, really, because even if you have I don't know, let's say that you have a 4,000 hit health character.
I wasn't saying like
her.
Her, if you have someone like 4,000 HP, you're losing 160 HP?
Yeah.
It's nothing. It's nothing. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Really, don't worry about it.
If this is killing you, if this measly health drain is causing your characters to die, this is not a Jingliu issue anymore.
Yeah. If anything, it synergizes with Fushuan because Fushuan's got a nice blanket heal for everyone, about 1,000 HP to everyone, which is perfect because that's what Jingliu's doing. She's doing like a little tiny amount to everyone.
Someone asked earlier, what do you think of Herda versus Surfall? Which one is better? It really depends on what you're playing against, though.
Yeah, in what context?
Attack rope versus ER rope, since she gets a lot of attack anyway.
So, from the testing that I've done, the ER rope does not appear to significantly influence how often I'm getting my ultimate. If anything, it's actually caused me to have far more desynced ultimates. By which I mean, I get Jingliu's ultimate when I'm outside of Spectral Transmigration and still have another turn left to get into Spectral Transmigration. Because you lose a colossal amount of damage by using her ultimate when you're not in her enhanced state, you are encouraged to wait until you're in it in order to use her ultimate, which means that you're wasting energy anyway. And so that extra energy that the ER rope can maybe, contribute isn't actually significant in the slightest. Maybe there are cases when it is more impactful. I think that there is a niche situation in which if you're using Jingliu with an energy regen rope alongside an E6 Tingyun, then it could be possible to make the double ultimate setup more easy and just more consistent. I do not think that there is a universe in which it is possible to get a third ultimate for Jingliu under spectral transmigration without Jingliu also being like E6, because that's when she gets an extra synergy stack. So
yeah, from the sheets I saw, it just doesn't give you a new break point, because the way it works out for her, she's already going to be essentially like 3 off energy, which you're probably going to get in 9% of the time just from being hit by something, right? And if you're not going to run an ER rope just to cover that 3. Like in the one time you get unlucky, restart your mock. Like,
yeah. So even though you have a lot of attack percent already in Jingliu's care, and we've mentioned it a lot now that you're likely to be overcapping on attack percent anyway, the attack percent rope, at least, it still gives you more damage, and I think it gives you a more tangible improvement to damage than the ER rope does. If a light cone comes out that provides a meaningful, increase to energy that could maybe also interact with an ER rope and, Tingyun potentially as well, maybe we'll have to recalc it. But I think for the time being, it's safe to say that an attack percent rope is probably still what you're after. Yeah, if Jingliu is at E6 and Tingyun is at E6, then I think an ER rope could make a difference. But it's really hard to test because there are very few people who have both those things. At that point, I would say that it probably doesn't matter. Like, in a genuine sense, if you're at the point where you have E6 Jingliu and E6 Tingyun, the rope that you have does not matter. You could probably just remove the rope, and you would still decimate everything.
Oh no. You said that. Now someone is going to test it.
Since I don't think we fully finished the other thing we were talking about, I think the only other damage dealing characters that are difficult to pair with Jingliu are very SP negative characters. So, as funny as it would be, Imbibitor Lunae with Jingliu is probably not something that's very easy to facilitate, because while Jingliu doesn't consume SP in her enhanced state, she also doesn't recover it, so Imbibitor Lunae is not going to have enough. Qing Chui before E6 is probably also not hugely amazing with Jingliu, because for the same reason, you don't have the SP for it. And Seele, if you're constantly getting resurgence procs, you can very quickly run out of SP to use for Seele. It might not be that bad for her specifically, because you can basic attack on Seele and it will significantly turn advance her. But it can be more. It's not impossible. It's just tricky. I think the only ones that are really, really like bordering on impossible right now are Imbibitor Lunae and pre-E6 Qing Chui. I think if you're brave enough, you can pretty much pair Jingliu with any other damage dealing character, and you'll probably have a good time.
Oh yeah.
So, like, genuinely have fun, experiment, come up with some wacky stuff, and be like, why not? Just why not? she allows you to kind of just go crazy with it, which is another reason why I think she's just so good, is that you really are just limited by your imagination more than by the game.
Yeah, it's like the way we're talking about it, it's easier to list like the 4 things that don't work with her than the 20 plus that do.
The benefits of barely using SP at all. Imagine if we go to DPS again, SP.
Well, that do be E6 Jingliu.
Oh no.
Okay, yes, I do admit I have been pretty lucky with her. It's stupid when that happens.
Yeah, 6-star DPS, by the way.
Oh my god.
Only thing I'm saying she can't do is solos, since she needs her teammates for her buffs. Yeah.
You mean solo, like solo?
The
solo.
Cypher,
I mean, I think most characters can't realistically solo just because of sustain issues. That's kind of a Blade thing.
Even then, my Blade solos are a little ouchy. Reens can't relate because she's in the realm of non-mortals. She's
No, the funny thing about Blade solo is you'll find that you're killing yourself more than anything else is. So the best way to Blade solo is just to use his normal unenhanced basic attack so you don't drain any health and just let yourself be beat on, like literally AFK gaming.
What the fuck?
Ain't no way.
This dude. He really just does want to die, huh? Lore accurate character.
I'm surprised we got almost 2 hours with that E6 Blade flex.
Wait, I didn't mention it.
Restart the timer.
It's not a flex, don't worry. I am
It's a statement.
invalidating her opinion.
It's an admission of gambling addiction.
Is it really an addiction if you know you're gonna get it? Or like a gambling addiction? Are you really gambling? Are you really gambling if you know that it's inevitable?
Okay, maybe I should correct. It's not a gambling addiction, it's a husbando addiction.
That's more like it.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
Is Eris Jingliu E6 yet? Can we expect flexes in the future? I don't think you were here for when I did my polls. If you were, I don't think you'd be asking those kinds of questions.
Mods, ban this guy.
However, if you guys
we don't talk about Eris's polls here. We just don't.
I mean, if anyone feels like funding my E6, please go ahead. I'm not gonna complain. I'm still trying to get her late going.
Where?
It's okay. I'm at most like 20 polls away. That's fine. We'll get there eventually. 90% of E6ers quit before they make it big.
This is true. This is very true.
Although, like most people I see going for E6 are like,
there's nothing sadder than having like an E5 on your roster because you know what they were going for.
Yeah, I don't think
nobody goes for the E5. Let's be honest.
Yeah, they're not gonna barely scrape the E6. They're going to go for it one way or another.
It's sad that Gepard is likely to be my first and probably only E6 5-star.
I haven't looked at his high cons.
They're actually pretty good.
Cracked, bro.
That's surprisingly good.
Yeah, like E1 through 4 is amazing.
Oh, I know his E1. His E1's fantastic. I was so happy when I got that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So that's actually silly.
I mean, I think it's
That's
honestly
like
just E1, 3, and 4. Probably E1, E4, E3.
mhm.
E2 is your better fuck you button. I like it.
That's
I
right.
think honestly, I'm looking through his cons. It's like there's he honestly has probably the most solid lineup. Like none of them are bad. They're all good.
I'm not
Like
really
you can look at
like
Bronya, where her
the-
E4 is basically like nothing. Like it might as well not exist. So you're kind of like have a big wall
Oh.
before you get her E6. But
It's that.
Yeah.
That seems like a fun one. Oh well.
elation.
it doesn't really do much. I thought the same thing, and then you just like, oh, okay, she's a little bit extra toughness damage. Yay.
Clara is also stacked on Eidolons. Her E1 is
Mhm.
great, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, E6 Clara is actually cracked. Just good luck getting that.
Yep.
Raw. The E4 30% damage reduction. Like, dude, she is not fucking dying with that. Oh my god. That's absurd.
Yenching. Who?
Someone mentioned Yanqing. Point and laugh, everybody.
Yes, everyone.
Guys,
is
enough,
laugh.
he's already dead.
He's not dead enough. Bring him back.
No, no.
Get him again.
It's okay, he's in mock.
Yeah, you get to beat him up this week. I gave him the lore accurate beatdown. Blade Jingliu just going ham.
Ain't no way. I'm gonna do that too.
But-
Jingliu's character achievement is straight up killing Yanqing in any fight. She's already done that multiple times. She's great with kids, honestly.
I think that's kind of it though for Jingliu, right? Like unless we forgot to mention something.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, we didn't. Have we talked about her technique?
I talked about it.
Like in terms of rotation stuff.
Oh.
Yeah. It was a question that we had on the day one thing where some people were asking about does the freeze from Jingliu's technique interfere with any kind of rotational things from your team? I think the answer is just no.
Yeah, realistically, I have not really seen that happen. The one thing that I have seen when using her technique, and this is more of a personal problem, is because you get one stack of synergy when using her technique to start a fight, if your Jingliu is ahead of your other characters in terms of speed, which was the case for me, she's gonna go ahead and waste a lot of her damage without buffs or debuffs on the enemy. So it is something to keep in mind when speed tuning. She needs to go behind your other units.
It's something that I've actually been experimenting with where I feel like she's just too fast a lot of the time with speed boots. If your other supports aren't like, turbo speed, like Lightning McQueen levels of speed, then it can be really difficult if you something that in my Fushuen setup. If I want Fushuen to set up her field to not only do the protecting thing, but also give the crit rate that it gives, and therefore give my Jingliu 100% crit rate. It works better when Jingliu goes after Fushuen, and she doesn't, because Fushuen just isn't as fast as my Jingliu. So I'm contemplating just getting attack boots on her. And
I think you just have to accept that her first rotation, unless you're going to run Fawn Wax, which you're not,
yep.
it is just going to be faster than probably everyone on the team.
Yeah. But she makes up for it's kind of just whatever you have on hand. I'd say probably speed is better overall, depending on what you're going for.
It's actually strange. From the mapping out I've done, speed is incredibly ahead at first. The longer you go on, the more it equalizes. But if you're doing something like 1 or 2 cycling, speed is miles ahead.
Yeah. So it's kind of like
As you
it's what you should strive
ultimately, as you invest in her more, it's just going to favor speed because you're going to be clearing through everything faster. So
yeah. Oh, and we should probably mention that the speed that Jingliu gets from her traces does not count as base speed. So
yeah, percentage buffs are keep in mind if you're trying to do speed tuning with Bronya or anything.
yeah, percentage buffs are not going to be, like it's going to be worse because her actual base speed is surprisingly low. It's below 100.
96 base speed.
Yeah. But if you're not playing Jingliu on auto, it's really difficult to play her poorly, I feel, because it's just, remember the golden rule of use her ultimate when she's enhanced, and then just use skill. Just only E. Just E. You literally don't have an option in the enhanced state but to use her skill. You literally can't basic attack when she's in spectral transmigration, so you don't even need to worry about fat fingering it. Just make sure you don't do it outside of spectral transmigration ever, because that's just don't. Please don't.
In the Jingliu guide,
Yeah.
spoiler alert, our tutorial on how to play her is just E. No other
Yeah,
words.
she's pretty. I mean, there's one tech we could talk about just slightly. Is you can cast her ult before her turn ends with her last charge gone, and it'll restore a charge and keep her in the state, which is
extension.
fun. Yeah, that's basically it.
It's very
Otherwise-
strong, but you do have to be on it to actually do it in time, because
Yeah.
if you're not using a controller and you don't have the benefit of time freeze, then it can be hard to, especially on double speed, it can be hard to press ultimate before the turn ends. So keep it in mind. If you want to go for it and you want to be certain, just let's slow things down a little for this one turn to ensure I get it, and then we can go back to normal speed, because ×2 is normal.
One thing I did notice while playing, that she has a very interesting dynamic with waves and phase changes for bosses. So what Reens talked about with extending her spectral transmigration by ulting at 0 stacks, you can't do that when swapping, when changing waves, but if you're up against a boss with multiple phases, and this is something that I've experienced with the deer in particular, when it's swapping into the next phase, you can still get your ult off in spectral transmigration. It doesn't end the state.
Yeah, for the boss multi-attacks, I believe the buffs fall off at the end of their final multi-attack, basically. Mhm.
Where is it?
I feel like that's probably everything? Question mark?
I mean, what's everyone's final rating here?
What's the rating system? What are we rating it out of?
She
Oh,
is
the
good old
Z S S
The good old 1 to 10,
plus,
yeah.
plus Z tier.
I mean, I would probably say, she's a 10. She's a 10 in my books. She's got really, really impressive damage at very, very little cost, has immense flexibility, is not super difficult to play. She's just comfy, and I can see her continue to be useful, even like around other new characters that might come out, because she does the same thing that Blade does basically, which is mad damage for no SP, and that is always going to be useful. So, especially if people don't have like a really solid damage dealer already, Jingliu, I think, is someone that you should be considering. Actually, even if you already have good damage dealers, you might still want to consider Jingliu, just because she is so good at what she does, and is likely to stay that way. It's a 10.
Resources are good.
Yeah, it's honestly just the being SP neutral is so powerful in this game more than anything. It's just you can essentially consider her like a free slot in the team.
We forgot to go over her Eidolons.
I mean,
Thanks for the
let's talk about
reminder.
them.
E1. When using her ultimate or enhanced skill, Jingliu's crit damage increases by 24% for 1 turn. If only one enemy target is attacked, the target will additionally be dealt ice damage equal to 100% of Jingliu's attack. So
If it goes off, it's good.
yeah,
If it's not, it's meta. Okay.
It's a little single target. This is probably the best Eidolon in the game. Like,
Yeah.
flat out, it's like it's massive. It's absolutely massive. In like multi-target, not so much. No, it doesn't do much.
Doesn't really, yeah.
Yeah.
In multi-target, you're basically just looking at the extra 24% crit damage, which is like it's nice, I guess, but you're not getting E1 an entire Eidolon for 24% crit damage.
Yeah, it's a handful of substats. It's not super exciting.
E2. This is more of the damage per screenshot stuff. After using ultimate, increases the damage of the next enhanced skill by 80%. Realistically, you're not going to be making too much use out of this. It is nice when it kicks in, but, again, situational.
Fun with Tingyun, but not...
It's kind of overkill.
Yeah.
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 Like, it's something that is often... It's often a conversation point with characters that have just like eidolons that don't necessarily change functions but just increase damage. Is how much damage is that character already doing? And she don't need it, bro.
He really doesn't most of the time.
E3, ultimate and talent damage, good. Nothing really to say about it. More damage is more damage. E4. Okay, during the spectral transmigration state, the attack gained from consuming allies' HP is additionally increased by 90% of the total HP consumed from the entire team. The cap for attack gained this way also increases by 30%. So, this is classic Koyo funny wording. Basically, what this means is that for the amount of HP that you're consuming from your allies, you're going to be getting more attack. It doesn't mean that you'll be consuming more HP, you will just be getting more attack. Basic TLDR.
It changes the multiplier from 5.4 to 6.3. That's what it's doing.
Yep.
And it's raising the total cap from 180% to, can I maths 210% of base attack? So it's just today. It's been a long day. Okay.
Yeah, it's very hard to keep track of this very technical wording, but
Yeah.
Especially since
What I do want to say about this is this doesn't actually change how much HP you need. The numbers come out to be exactly the same. You need the exact same HP drain to hit the cap. It's not like you need to bring more ally HP. We already said it was easy to hit the cap.
Yeah, it increases the multiplier corresponding to the new ceiling. The attack increase.
Yeah, so it's just extra damage. That's
it's just stronger.
It's essentially just saying her talent is stronger. It's better.
But again, does she need it? No.
Yep. E5 is
skill.
the
Again,
skill level up.
Good.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah, you're never
it's
using
good.
basic attack. That does not matter. It literally does not matter. You're never basic attacking. But skill, 2/3 of her damage, always good. And then E6. Sushou touched upon this one earlier. When Jingliu enters the spectral transmigration state, the synergy stack limit increases by 1, and Jingliu obtains 1 stack of synergy. While she is in the spectral transmigration state, her crit damage increases by 50%. So basically here, instead of having an upper limit of 3, you have a limit of 4 synergy stacks. And whenever you enter spectral transmigration, you automatically get 1. So basically the way you look at this is now instead of needing 2 stacks, or instead of going to into spectral transmigration having 2 stacks, you'll have 3, and then you'll also have a cap of 4. In addition to that, when you're in spectral transmigration, you're also getting 50% crit damage.
Like, this is... It's E6, so it's understandably going to be ridiculous, and this is why I said that the whole attack versus ER rope, even when it does start to become relevant, it immediately stops being relevant, because this Eidolon is when it starts to maybe become relevant, and you turn from a bazooka into like a warhead with this. You open up the potential for a 3rd ultimate during spectral transmigration if you're running with Tingyun. So not only are you doing significantly more damage, you're also even more SP positive than you were previously, and you destroy everything. You just destroy everything.
This makes it very realistic for you to enter transmigration once, and you just wipe the floor with everything before you leave.
Yeah. Like Rexel is saying, things are guaranteed dead before the 3rd ultimate even becomes a consideration. The upper stack limit is important because, like Eris described, when you enter spectral transmigration with E6, you start with 3 stacks instead of 2 stacks of synergy. And if you ult immediately upon entering, you then get the 4th one. So that is 4 guaranteed enhanced skills that you get. And if you get a 2nd ultimate, you get another one, so that's 5. So you spend 2 SP to do 7 attacks, 5 of which are earth-shattering. If your Jingliu is at this level, you don't need to worry about anything. You can throw the worst relics on her, probably, and she'll be fine. She will just destroy everything in her way.
In Swarm, oh my god, I love her in Swarm. It's great. It works well in Remembrance, in Destruction with fucking Blade. It is hilarious. Like he's like going to do his follow-up every other action. It's very hard to find like a spot where she doesn't work. Like even Elation, if you get Cat's Cradle, she might get some very funny ult spam moments. That could be fun, but otherwise not. That's the one that's kind of shaky. I like her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's if something that was kind of Another thing that I've like seen floating around, another question is, I already have Imbiber to Lune. Is it worth it for me to pull for Jingliu? And
Yes,
initially,
because Jingliu is hotter. End of story.
initially I was thinking, because it's the conversation that always crops up, right? Like, what do you need more for your account? Do you have enough supports? Do you have enough sustain options? Are you missing this? Do you need more of that? And so it's like, if you already have Imbiber to Lune, and everybody has Qingcui, plug, you're probably set for the most part. And then I got my hands on Jingliu. I think it's very difficult to not shill for this character. I hope you understand. She really is this good.
Yeah. Like, we have to really stretch to criticize her and that she doesn't wear shields very well. That's the most damning thing I can come up with.
Yeah.
She kind of just does everything. So, you know, if you were thinking about going for Jingliu, right? If there was a thought about doing that, and you're not sure, but you're not sure, then, you know, don't make a decision that you would regret, is my very vague advice. Interpret that how you will, but the clock is also ticking because this is a short half. Habana has like what? Like 10 days left?
Yeah, it's running out.
So
Still half of it, yeah.
Yeah, if you are now convinced, if you are
9
thinking
days.
about it, then, you know, we've given you the information. That's all we can say, right? That's probably all we're allowed to say. Otherwise, people will be like, "You're shilling too hard." And again, it's really hard to not shill for this character.
We're holding back here.
Like,
You
our
know
veins
what?
are popping.
Fuck holding back. Guys, Jingliu is great. She's fantastic. Also, someone said topaz thighs. Hello? Are we not looking at the same character? Honestly. The audacity. Hunt is stinky.
I will actually piggyback off of that, and I'll say this one thing is for people who are, you know, saving or something, just another sort of another ember to hand to you. This is something that happened when Kafka was new, and people were unsure about how her value would change over time, and that maybe she wouldn't be as good as people expected, maybe she wouldn't have the supports for it, you know, so on and so forth. And so pulling for the future in expectation of something happening is not a hugely great strategy, because it might not happen. It might happen, but it might happen very, very far down the line. It just so happened that Kafka turned out to be very good. And it's the same thing here. If, like, we have Jingliu, we have access to her, we've done the testing, we have verifiable proof of her strength and her power level. We don't yet have that for Topaz. Now, again, I'm also a firm advocate of, you know, like, waifu husbando over meta. If you just like the character, by all means. But if you're in a situation where you are struggling with endgame content and you need a character and you want to do something, this is a good time to consider your options.
Is her light cone worth getting? We covered this earlier. The big consideration with light cones, especially for destruction characters, is what other options do you have? Basically, what we talked about was because destruction characters can be very gimmicky and specific in what they want, they don't really have a bunch of just yoink and slot in light cones. The biggest example of that is Blade. Since he's an HP scaler, a lot of the light cones just don't do much for him. It's realistically like his signature, secret vow, maybe mutual demise if you don't have that. For Jingliu, she does have more options. She has her signature, obviously, which is by far the best option for her. She has On the Fall of an Aeon, which is good. Not as good, but it's still good at S5. At S1, it is going to be significantly worse. She can use Secret Vow, and even if she doesn't make use of the second half of the passive, it's still pretty strong on her because she does have a lot of attack stat saturation in there and not a lot of damage percent. She really doesn't have damage percent in her kit. So getting whatever amount you can from Secret Vow is great. Under the Blue Sky, if you have it, can be an option. Just keep in mind that it does provide crit rate, and she already gets a solid chunk of it from her kit. Collapsing Sky is an option, but do keep in mind that it is a 3-star and still has 3-star base stats. It is an option that you can use until you have something better. So destruction characters are really just balanced around their light cone options for the most part. Is a Secret Vow not just the base level for destruction building? No, because Secret Vow is gacha, and a gacha option should never be your baseline. I shall be my own sword on Jingliu or in the night for Pela. Which one gives higher increase for the respective character? I think I shall be my own sword is better for Jingliu because you're realistically not running more than one hunt character. And for hunt, everyone likes cruising in the Stellar Sea. And also, you do have other options that are like the hunt options.
I mean,
are
you
just
have sword
universal.
play is the big thing, which is
Yes. Do you have sword play?
Yeah.
It's the first question we ask. Is it S5?
because if you have sword play, just use sword play.
Yeah.
Yes.
S5 swordplay is probably the best hunt light cone in the game right now. It really do be that good.
Unless you want multiple in the night, but in my opinion, not worth, homie.
So
the other thing with that is, again, like the hunt options are all just like you slot them in on all of your hunt characters and you call it day. Maybe with the exception of like Yanqing because too much crit rate, maybe. But like even then, it's still a lot easier to equip a hunt character than it is to equip a destruction character. That's my take on it.
yeah, man.
Speed rolls on Pela. I don't think you should be looking for speed rolls on Pela. She's already naturally very fast.
Yeah, you might run into the issue where you don't have the SP for it, because because she's already naturally very fast. I think she still holds the title for fastest base speed at 115.
And she gains 25% more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if you also have speed boots on her, she's gonna be lapping your support characters. So
she has 143 like just baseline after she uses skill. She barely needs any speed to get most of the benefit out of her light cone.
So yeah, if you're looking for the highest increase for the respective character, then I'd say go for Jingliu's. Qualification is going to get more and more weird as more characters with speed traces come out, since Jingliu already opened that game. That's... I don't really agree with that. Like, just because we got one character that has speed traces doesn't mean we're gonna get more. Doesn't mean we're gonna get more anytime soon. We'll get them when we get them.
But
I mean, yeah.
go on.
Ultimately, the minor traces are pretty arbitrary. They can just give them whatever stats they want. Like, who's to say we couldn't have like a resistance pen minor trace or something?
God,
They really want. It would be fucking cracked, but maybe they tune it around it. Who knows? I wouldn't read too much into that. That's just game design.
Yeah. Plus, it's actually not as significant as it might initially seem, because again, like we mentioned earlier, stats that you get from minor traces are in addition to base stats. So if a character's base speed is still like 96 or 100 or whatever, getting speed minor traces is going to increase that, but anything that depends on your base speed, like percentage speed increases, will still only ever factor in your base speed, which is why Sele is so ahead in that department, because 115 base speed makes her 25% increase that much more impressive and that much better than if a different character had the 25%. Because like Dunhung as well, regular Dunhung, I mean, 4-star one, has 110 base speed, which is also very significant, which is why he also feels very quick when you get his speed boost. But it's still not as fast as Sele.
Is Jingliu's light cone good on anyone else? Yeah, it might be the most universal option out of the 3 signature 5 stars, or the 4 signature 5 stars that we have. Because being a destruction character means...
Fun fact, if you have her together with Blade, because she can trigger it on both of them, otherwise you can't trigger the Eclipse effect, right? It's barely behind his signature by like a few percentage points.
Yeah. Usually the other kind of signature ones are quite tailored to their respective characters. So Brighter Than the Sun has a specific thing where it's only on basic attacks, because Imbibitor Lunae is quite literally incapable of activating skill-based requirements. Blade's Unreachable Side is a lot of bonus health, which for a lot of other destruction characters just might not be very useful at all. Plus the health consumption aspect of it. If you're not hit by enemies for the Unreachable Side, then it's kind of maybe not that great. It kind of ends up just being kind of a stat stick. Something Irreplaceable, I'm gonna be honest, it's kind of just a little worse than Fall of an Aeon, but it is still a genuine 5-star. It has 5-star stats. It is a good stat stick if you have it, and it is something that you could eventually guarantee for yourself because of the Starlight Exchange. We don't really recommend that you spend your Starlight on this, but if you really, really want to and you can't be swayed otherwise, it is an option for you. It's also possible that you just get it over time from, standard pulls. So if you get it and you are a destruction gamer, I wouldn't be too upset by it. There is only one on the Fall of an Aeon after all. And you can't put it on everyone.
If only the BP destruction light cone was worth a damn.
It just takes too long to get, really, because there's other light cones from the BP that you could do more things with. Especially today is another peaceful day. I think that's probably the best one.
Yeah.
Its effect is just too good.
I don't know what I'm gonna do once I max out my peaceful day.
Good standard light cone. I don't know her. I do not know her at all. What's a good standard light cone? Not me getting these three.
Like, they're actually all pretty okay. They're not good enough that we suggest using your precious starlight on them, because guaranteeing yourself either a completely new character or an eidolon for a character that you frequently use, or even better, the opportunity cost of the extra pulls that you can get with the starlight is just far better. But if you get any of these standard light cones from the standard banner, or God forbid losing 50-50, most of them are pretty good, except for the ones that Eris has. Night on the Milky Way and Time Waits for No One are a bit. Well, they are two of the light cones of all time.
Visual representation of me remembering that I have.
Now we're just rubbing salt on the wound.
Ouch.
I'm informing the audience. It's not meant to be. It's not meant to be bad, I promise.
Awaiting the day Eris finally gets Time Waits for No One to S5. I'm handing in my resignation.
Okay, well, not seeing that one.
Nihility one is also very mid. Are you talking about Welts? That's not very mid. That's pretty
In the Name of
decent.
the World is quite good, yeah.
Yeah. It's very generalist. Like, every Nihility character just likes it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a decent stat stick. Yeah, maybe it won't be as good as their personal signature 5-star, but
It's usually a close second. Yeah.
yeah.
The Twitch VODs get published almost immediately unless I forget. At which point I will go and publish them when I do remember.
Mm. Yeah, Newt has been fucking chugging to get these out.
Did we not publish the last one?
Did we?
No, we definitely did.
Oh, I'm not logged in. I'll check later. But yeah, no, you can look forward to both the Twitch VOD and the YouTube version to come out fairly quickly.
Do we want to have like a Q&A or something now? Because I think we've
already
covered.
Did. This was.
Oh,
Isn't
did we
that
do
what we're
that?
doing right now?
Is that what we're doing right now?
Yeah.
I feel like it was, yeah.
Oh, huh.
Sushou is not part of this recording right now.
So we haven't just been making up those questions. They weren't rhetorical.
Look, I don't have an excuse. Next section. transition.
I'm having a Boudet moment right now.
What?
Oh, no.
No, we're not bringing that on.
Oh dear. I'm getting pinged.
TLDR, is she broken? No, I'm going to fix her by making her worse. I mean, what? I am contributing to her well-being.
I mean, we can say she's the most broken character so far.
And even then,
Yeah.
it depends on your definition of broken.
Yeah.
She is incredibly strong. That is just a fact.
Yeah. I've seen some interesting takes online about some people who are trying to downplay Jingliu's strengths by saying that she's too investment heavy is something that I've seen.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm just gonna straight
Have you
call.
looked at how many free stats she gets? Like, you can't say anyone that 50% crit rate for free it is investment heavy.
Dude,
Yep,
I
it's
did not
complete bollocks.
I did not pre-farm for her at all. And I got her online, like semi-online day 1, and just fully online day 2. She's like fucking tearing up Swarm Disaster.
Also, we really don't
time.
talk about it, but the fact that she is ice is so nice because
Oh,
freeze
yeah.
is dummy good as a break effect. It's so good.
Oh yeah, don't even need to invest in break effects. It's just good. Period.
It is just absolutely ridiculous. Like the free stats that she gets is insane. She's the first character on my entire account that has, without effort, breached 200% crit damage. She's actually at 212% right now, and my relics are not even that good. So, you know. No character is a must pull. We will continue to reiterate this as many times as we need to. However, Jingliu is undeniably a great pull. A fantastic pull. Not a must pull, but is peak.
If you need a DPS, you're gonna be waiting a long time for a better opportunity.
Okay, two questions here real quick. What's the best 4 set for her? Genius, if you're not overcapping on defense shred. If you're overcapping on defense shred, 2-piece ice, attack, speed, or 4-piece ice. And this is a question that I'm getting tired of saying. 134 speed. Guys, 134 speed is not gospel. It's not the magic number that will solve all of your problems.
So
Don't
134
fixate on
speed is only relevant if you can one cycle the first wave in Mach. That again depends on what the first wave in Mach is. Because if it's a boss, you're not one cycling it.
Yeah, it's something that came up in like the very first, like the very
In the
beginning of the
first
game.
Mach, it was different because the first wave was consistently just trash. It was like stuff you could realistically clear in one cycle.
Yeah, plus there was also it was also revolving around the very first memory turbulence effect that was present in 1.0, which was if a character is on the hunt path or erudition path, they would get their turn advanced upon a new cycle and get a 50% damage boost. So it was very worthwhile for you to try and finish the first cycle with a second turn so that you then immediately get turn advanced back to the front. It hasn't remained anywhere near as relevant over time. So more speed is generally better unless there are specific reasons why you don't want to be fast or like specific speed tuning to match supports or stuff. So, like, you know, if your Bronya, for example, is 120 speed or whatever, and you get your new damage dealer character to 134 because you heard it somewhere that this is, you know, better or good for you, and like another support character is also mismatched speed, like things are just going to kind of fall apart for you, and you're just not going to be able to like fully act on the benefits that each character would provide to you because your speed is a mess. It might be a high speed value, but it's also a mess.
Yeah, speed tune your team first before you just throw as much speed as you can on one character. People going in the right order will do a lot more for you than your Jingliu going 10 speed faster. If just your Pela goes before her, big deeps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to get her to stupid speeds. But the problem is then none of your supports, nobody's going before her. So you're not going to have any of her buffs and debuffs up for that first like run through anyway. So
what's the point?
Yeah. Yep.
Does Tingyun need to be in a specific order besides fast?
No, she needs to be hyper turbo light speed plaid.
As fast as you want, yeah. On a Tingyun, just
as long as she
faster the
acts
better.
before your main damage dealer, you're gonna be okay. Would you say she's a better pull than Daniel?
Yes, because she's hotter.
That's a tricky question. But actually, it's a simple question. It's difficult to answer because there's a lot of factors at play, and I feel like personal preference also plays a big role in deciding which one is better. Because which one is better in general is very difficult to quantify because everyone's account is different.
I will say she's a more flexible pull than Daniel, hands down. Daniel is probably one of our most locked-in units in terms of how you build him and how you play him and how you build his teams.
Yeah, for sure. That is like the one thing that is undeniable is that Jingliu has, I would almost say, extraordinary flexibility. Like there are very few characters in this game so far that can be put in as many places as Jingliu. It's a very exclusive club so far, and I think the only other member of it right now is Blade. So, if you're looking for someone who is just like, I just feel like using this character now, or oh, there's an ice weakness, let's bung in Jingliu in there, why not? Then yeah, she's gonna be able to do that. Whereas with Imbibe to Lune, it's like, this foe is imaginary weak. Time to very meticulously construct my team around Imbibe to Lune so that he can continue to do what he does best.
Which planar rope on Pela?
Depends in it. If you're using, I think if you're for Pela, if you're using her for quote unquote normal setups, then Keel is pretty good. The 10% crit damage extra can be very, very helpful. If you're using Pela for a dot-centric team, dots can't crit. If you would direct your attention to the bottom of the screen where we have "Do not build crit on Kafka," we still get this question. That's why it's there. It really causes physical pain at this point. Dots can't crit, so in that case, it would be better to go for Fleet of the Ageless for the attack percent increase because that will actually affect what the dot will do. So, unless you're playing a Kafka comp, unless you're playing, Kafka Sampo or something to that effect, and using Pela alongside them, Keel is a pretty safe choice.
On that note, I think we've talked about Does Pela need any kind of energy boost? Do you mean more energy?
If you mean an ER rope, yeah, go for it. I mean, the nice part about the ER rope is you get her down to the 3 basics, like.
I think they're more referring to other sources of energy.
You
Like
mean
volume.
like quid pro quo, other stuff?
You generally won't, as long as I believe it's her talent, right? Is the one.
Yeah.
You do need to get it to a specific level for it to match up. Off the top of my head, I think it's about 7 or so. I might be wrong on this, so you'd want to double check. That's like the break point for her to consistently get like 3 basics into an ult.
I think you might be the energy thing might be referring to getting her to be a skilled normal alternating, which, if I recall correctly, you do need some outside energy from like a quid pro quo or something.
Mm-hmm.
But quid pro quo is readily accessible, so it shouldn't be that big of an issue to get a second one if one that you already have is in use.
Yeah.
Or use tutorial.
The other option.
Yes, if you are around for tutorial and you have tutorial, it is a pretty easy option to give to Pela. It gives you too much effect hit rate, like straight up. You don't need the amount of effect hit rate that before the tutorial mission starts gives you. And if you have something like resolution shines as pearls of sweat, that's really that is the more optimal choice to go for if you have the HR requirements. So it's yeah, and resolution will also help you get energy back faster because it works on a talent. So yeah.
Did we cover on how Jingliu wants attack boost less? Yeah, I mean, we mentioned this all throughout that she's just genuinely oversaturated on attack. She gets so much from her talent. So it kind of runs into the same thing with just with the supports you bring with her too. Like she benefits so much more from damage percent boost and crit damage boost. And she likes both those because, well, damage percent she doesn't have any in her kit. Crit damage because she's very likely at or around 100% crit rate. So you kind of get the full benefit of crit damage. So you definitely want Keel on your supports there.
Yep. And on that note, I think we have talked about everything. If you guys think we missed anything, feel free to DM me.
Can we talk about how she doesn't take off the blindfold to look at her phone?
Yeah, that shit was really stupid when I did that for the first time. I'm like, oh.
Yes, I see.
Anime moment, guys. She can see with a blindfold. It's fine. She's built different, okay? She's just built different.
It's not a blindfold. It's a visor.
Sure.
You gotta do the Nier Automata thing. It's a visor. It's actually really high tech.
Based.
Yeah.
Me when the voices. But yeah, I think that's all for today. Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next time with a quantum mega episode where we talk about every single quantum unit in the game. If you guys are interested, tune in next time.
I will be stepping aside for our server's #1 quantum simp.
Yeah, he do be simping.
Guys, do not speak ill of the dead like that. Topaz will have her episode as well. Yeah, Topaz and Gwenithan will have their episodes as well. Or their episode. On
Yeah.
day
By the
one
way,
for
Yep.
them.
Eris, I've been cooking again. We will also have a special episode for that. Stay tuned.
Yeah, we'll probably have the Topaz and Gwen episodes a little earlier. This one was a little later, just had scheduling issues.
Yeah. Plus, it gave us some extra time to make sure that we fully understood how things worked beforehand.
Mhm.
And I'll probably be doing some more suffering over the weekend. So if you're interested to see just how ridiculous Jingliu can be with a 3-star light cone, then stick around for the weekend when I take her into Memory of Chaos.
Yeah, dude, I
Nice.
can very easily go and finish up Mock. I stopped at 8 because I was getting crystals.
This
or-
mock is really honestly, it's easy compared to previous ones.
Dude,
Yeah.
the blessing is so insane. Like fucking dissociation, even in the weekend.
Yeah.
state.
It just bring ice, Just that's it. Bring ice, and you'll have no issues.
Like I
Also,
don't want to
she's
finish it until
Yes.
I have her. Like I want to clear 10 with her light cone, but like
You want to make sure they
So
never get up
easy.
again, huh?
yeah, it's so like
Yeah.
it's so low effort. Anyway, thank you guys for being here. We'll
Mhm.
catch you next time.
Yep. Bye bye.
Bye. Peace.
See you guys. We out.